Some men spend years believing they're safe just because they're with a good woman. She's polite, religious, loving, even posts Bible verses in her captions. But one day, out of nowhere, she grows cold, pulls away, and cheats. And the worst part? She swears she still loves you. Sounds absurd, right? But it's way more common than you think. The truth is, even good women cheat, and the reason is almost never what you imagine. This kind of betrayal doesn't start in a motel room. It begins with a series of small gestures you ignored. The automatic smile, the compliments that stopped, the phone she suddenly keeps face down. And by the time you realize what's happening, the emotional bond is already gone. The problem is, no one ever taught you how to read those signs, or how to protect yourself from emotional betrayal dressed up as routine, or how to notice when external validation starts meaning more to her than your presence. Here, we're going to explore the real, often silent, psychological reasons why a woman who seems loyal can still engage in female infidelity. We're going to expose traps you don't see, mistakes you make, and more importantly, how to develop a level of male self-mastery that protects you emotionally without turning you into a cold or paranoid man. If you're tired of being caught off guard, if you want to finally understand female psychology, and if you're ready to become a high-value man who commands respect, then you need to watch this till the end. Because the answer you're looking for isn't just in her behavior. It's in something much deeper, something no one talks about. But I will reveal it here. Now that you understand what's at stake, let's get straight to it. The first type of betrayal is the most dangerous, the one that hides behind a gentle smile. Let's start with the one that fools men the most, the illusion of the good girl. When the good woman turns into the opposite without warning, the biggest trap a man can fall into is believing that the good girl image automatically means purity, loyalty, and unshakable stability. The danger lies in the blind expectation. Many men ignore the fact that behind the sweet behavior, there might be an emotional mask crafted to serve social convenience. And when that mask falls, it can leave a trail of emotional infidelity that hurts far more than any physical affair. The real pain comes from the contrast between what you believed and who she actually was. Take the classic case of a man in what seems like a healthy relationship, but he notices his partner often speaks in unclear ways. She says she loves him, but praises another man with more excitement than she ever showed him. That subtlety, often brushed off, is a clear sign of ambiguous behavior. And when it's not met with clarity and firmness, it opens the door to external validation that many women unconsciously crave. The man who tolerates this slips into the role of the submissive man, and that's where the silent decay begins. Much of this dynamic is born out of male self-deception. He truly believes she would never do that, just because she's polite, classy, and well-spoken. But character isn't revealed in peaceful moments. It shows up under tension, frustration, and routine. And a relationship without emotional vigilance easily becomes a worn-out relationship, where each person quietly seeks an exit. Pretending everything's fine won't work. Once the emotional foundation starts to crumble, instincts speak louder than promises. There's a blind spot most men refuse to face. A woman's emotional hunger doesn't vanish just because she's in a relationship. And if that hunger isn't met with genuine emotional connection, she will seek it elsewhere. That's why a man must learn to read the silence. Notice the smiles she saves for her phone, the compliments she never gives you, the glances that don't include you. These are small signs, but deeply revealing. Disguised disrespect shows up when she says, "He's just a friend," but spends more time talking to him than to you. This is where applied stoicism comes in. A man of value doesn't react with jealousy and drama, but with lucid presence. He confronts not with rage, but with calm firmness. He sets emotional boundaries not to control her, but to protect his dignity. And if she doesn't respect those boundaries, he walks away. Because a man of value doesn't trade his peace for scraps of attention. This breakdown of the good woman archetype isn't about creating bitterness, it's about creating clarity. Her kindness may be real, or it may be strategic. And the truth most men avoid is that even the most charming woman can carry a silent emptiness inside. And it's that very emptiness that may pave the way to betrayal, even in a home that seems happy from the outside. But this is only the beginning. There's something even more subtle that many men can't even see. Now that you understand the trap of the innocent image, Let's talk about the kind of betrayal that begins with nothing but distance. The betrayal that begins in silence. Some betrayals don't start with kisses or secret messages. They begin in the silence of routine, in the distant gaze, in the absence of presence. When a woman, yes, even the so-called good woman, starts to lose emotional connection, the first sign isn't physical cheating. It's emotional withdrawal. The man senses something has shifted, but since he's stuck in passive communication, he avoids bringing it up. That silence grows into a void. And inside that void, emotional infidelity is born. Many men confuse tolerance with maturity. They accept her emotional absence, telling themselves it's just a phase. But when she starts opening up more to others than to him, the warning lights are flashing. A healthy relationship demands presence, active listening, and clarity. If a man isn't providing that and remains trapped in his comfort zone, he's building the perfect scenario for her to seek outside what she no longer finds by his side. This shift is usually gradual. First, she stops seeking his advice. Then she no longer shares details about her day. Soon, she loses the excitement of celebrating small wins with him. From that point on, the disconnection becomes the norm. What most men don't realize is that both partners fuel this dynamic. When he checks out emotionally due to stress, work, or simple negligence, he himself pushes the relationship toward the very wear and tear she fears, but doesn't know how to stop. Female psychology tells us that women seek emotional intimacy above all. When that's missing, she might still be physically present, but emotionally, she's already gone. The danger is that by the time the man notices, it's already too late. She's found someone else who gives her external validation, who listens, who sees her. And it's not just about competing with another man. Often, it's a fight against the emotional vacuum that the man allowed to grow. The man who ignores these early signs of emotional drift unknowingly becomes the classic submissive man, the one who'll accept anything just to keep the relationship intact, even if she's emotionally invested elsewhere. This weakens his masculine confidence, and she starts to see him as emotionally inferior. Once respect fades, loyalty soon follows. That's why practicing male self-mastery is essential. Being emotionally present, attentive, and expressive isn't weakness, it's strategy. A man who observes, questions, listens, and acts with strength builds bridges instead of walls. He doesn't shy away from healthy confrontation because he knows that avoiding discomfort leads to disaster. And in doing so, he becomes a true guardian of emotional connection, even when the flame starts to flicker. And when that guardian fails, another kind of betrayal begins, one even more common than you'd expect. But what if the betrayal didn't start with her but with you? This next part takes courage to hear. When a woman cheats because of the man, most men aren't ready to hear this, but they need to. In many cases, female infidelity isn't born out of malice or manipulation. It's born out of the man's own behavior. The woman who cheats didn't always plan it. She slowly evolved into it, shaped by emotional neglect, a lack of affection, or a partner who lost his edge. When a man stops being her mirror of safety, she goes searching for that reflection elsewhere. This isn't about blaming, but about understanding how deterioration happens. Take the example of a husband who, for years, dismisses his wife's feelings. He doesn't ask how she's doing, doesn't compliment her, doesn't care about the details of her day. Meanwhile, she starts bonding with a coworker who listens, validates, and shows interest. That small difference ignites an unaddressed emotional hunger inside her. From there, emotional cheating becomes not just possible, it becomes likely. There's also the trap of excessive idealization. Many men fall in love with the fantasy version of their woman, not the real, evolving person. Over time, they cling to that illusion, ignoring the changes happening within her. This excessive romanticization is dangerous. She doesn't want a pedestal. She wants to be seen, challenged, and deeply understood. When a man loses himself in fantasy, he forfeits emotional leadership. And that vacuum is often filled by someone who knows how to take the lead. Another common mistake? The man who erases himself just to please her, thinking it'll make her love him more. But instead of admiration, he gets overlooked. She loses that image of a strong, grounded man and starts seeing someone predictable and emotionally dull. This kind of passive communication drains the attraction, kills admiration, and opens the door wide for her to seek external validation. She'll crave from another man what her partner was too afraid to embody. This is when disguised disrespect starts creeping in. She'll begin to test boundaries, push limits, and see how far she can go without being checked. And the man, out of guilt or fear of losing her, lets it slide. But this dynamic, even when subtle, is deeply corrosive. A relationship without emotional boundaries becomes a breeding ground for dissatisfaction, mind games, and eventually, betrayal. What was once a shared path becomes a battlefield of emotional survival. That's why the path to healing lies in rebuilding masculine confidence. A man must rediscover who he is, what he stands for, and how far he's willing to go. That means saying no when your values are at stake, speaking your truth with strength, taking care of your body and mind, and never relying on anyone else for your emotional stability. That's the essence of applied Stoicism, living with balance and clarity, not with desperation or fear. And here, let's take a quick pause. If this kind of content is opening your eyes to things you've never noticed before, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because this is just the beginning. Let's keep going. Up to now, we've talked about actions. But next, let's dive into the essence, the kind of woman whose emotional emptiness can quietly ruin the man who falls for her. The danger of falling for an emotionally hollow woman. Not every woman cheats because of thrill or forbidden passion. Some do it driven by an internal emptiness they don't even fully understand. This kind of female betrayal stems from a silent void, an emotional black hole she tries to fill with attention, adrenaline, or a sense of self-worth. When a man falls for a woman like this without realizing what hides behind the sweetness and the smile, he's stepping into dangerous territory, where logic doesn't work and stability is nothing but a fragile illusion. This type of woman usually appears balanced, but she's constantly chasing stimulation. Even in a stable relationship, she grows bored easily because she's not at peace with herself. External validation becomes her fuel. A compliment from a stranger means more than 100 loving words from her partner. And the more the man tries to please her, the more he feeds her thirst for novelty and approval without even realizing it. The man who fails to spot this emotional mask early enough often ends up blaming himself when the betrayal comes. He believes he wasn't good enough, that he failed somehow. But the truth is, no amount of love can heal what she refuses to confront inside herself. This is where female psychology becomes subtle and complex. Many women don't cheat out of evil intent, but because they're lost inside their own identity. And that inner confusion gives rise to ambiguous behavior that traps the man in cycles of self-doubt. Often, this kind of woman struggles to maintain long-term relationships even if she claims to crave commitment. She creates loops of attachment and rejection, swinging between affection and emotional coldness. One day, she's the perfect partner. The next, she's emotionally absent. This cycle wears down even the most grounded man, dragging the relationship into a state of emotional fatigue and deep frustration. He finds himself asking, "What more can I do?" without realizing the problem isn't him, but the chaos she carries within. The best way to handle this kind of situation is by cultivating male self-mastery, learning to recognize emotional patterns before they become traps, observing how she reacts to frustration, boredom, and routine. A woman who's emotionally mature seeks peace, but the immature ones often unconsciously find pleasure in chaos. A man who understands this difference protects himself. He sets boundaries, watches for time-tested behavior, and checks if her actions match her words. Most of all, he doesn't fall for promises that come without follow-through. That clarity is what separates the high-value man from the one who lives in denial. The man who sees the signs, speaks up with calm authority, and knows when to walk away. Because you can't build something solid with someone who looks to others for the healing only she can do on her own. Who you choose to date or marry is really a choice about the kind of pain you're willing to live with. And if she's emotionally hollow, the price may be far too high. And now we arrive at one of the most dangerous scenarios, when she starts to see herself as better than you, in body, in mind, and in worth. The woman who cheats when she feels physically and emotionally superior. Not all female betrayal stems from a lack of love. Sometimes it begins with a quiet belief that she's better than you, more attractive, more desired, smarter, or more emotionally advanced. When a woman starts seeing herself as superior to her partner, physically or emotionally, respect fades. And where there's no respect, fidelity won't last. She might not say it out loud, but her actions reveal what she's really thinking. I deserve better. This is when a man begins to notice a kind of coldness that doesn't come with yelling or fighting, but with silent glances, subtle judgments, compliments for other men said too loud, and a growing impatience with him just being around. That's the start of disguised disrespect. She positions herself as the emotional authority. The man often responds with passive communication, trying to win her back by pleasing her, only making himself look weaker and less desirable in her eyes. Many women who believe they're physically superior to their partner start entertaining the idea that they could do better. Comparisons with other, more fit, more stylish, or more confident men begin to creep in. If the man stops taking care of his body, his health, or his masculine presence, he becomes too familiar. The relationship fatigue sets in not because of routine, but because of the unspoken imbalance that's now too obvious to ignore. On the emotional side, it gets even worse. She starts thinking she feels more, understands more, expresses more. And if he's not actively growing through self-knowledge, he becomes predictable, reactive, or emotionally dull. That emotional gap gives her room to seek external validation from men who seem more evolved or deep. And that's when emotional infidelity shows up in the form of that friend who listens, supports, and connects, while the actual partner fades into the background. The man who doesn't push back becomes the textbook submissive partner. He accepts the new rules of the relationship, afraid of losing what little remains. He fails to set emotional boundaries, and this crushes his masculine confidence. The woman who already felt superior now uses that power imbalance as internal justification to give herself to another man, someone who brings back the challenge, presence, and strength she no longer sees at home. The way out of this is male self-mastery. A man who takes care of his body, mind, and spirit, intentionally and consistently, becomes magnetic by nature. He doesn't try to compete with her, but also doesn't shrink in her presence. He takes care of himself because he respects himself. He grows because he has purpose. He sets boundaries because he knows his worth. That's the kind of man who, even in front of a strong, beautiful woman, stays grounded. And it's precisely that balance that stops her from seeing herself as superior, because in front of her stands a man of value. The truth is, no man is completely immune to female betrayal, no matter how stable the relationship may seem, or how sweet and loving she appears to be. What separates the emotionally broken man from the emotionally solid one is the level of awareness he develops throughout his journey. Pain only destroys the man who refuses to learn from it. And if you've made it this far, you've already taken the first step. Now, reflect honestly. Have you been standing your ground? Have you made your emotional boundaries clear? Have you been cultivating your self-mastery as a man? Or have you been erasing yourself just to keep the relationship alive? Because the man who doesn't take control of his emotional life will eventually be controlled by the emotional waves of others. She may seem like a good woman, but if she senses that you're not in command of yourself, emotional infidelity becomes a real threat. There's no guarantee of loyalty where respect has been lost. And respect doesn't come from pressure, it comes from presence, clarity, and posture. So here's the real question. Are you ready to become that high-value man, the one who doesn't depend on someone else's loyalty to feel worthy? Or will you keep outsourcing your pain, just because you're afraid to face your own reflection and change? Drop this in the comments. I choose to be a high-value man. I want to read your decision, your strength, and your commitment to this new vision of yourself. Thank you for sticking with me until the very end of this video. Your attention is valuable, and I don't take that lightly. If this content woke something up inside you, show that it was worth it. Like the video, send it to a brother who needs to wake up. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Just getting started. And I'll be right here walking with you on this journey.